give me one reason why I should trust any government. And granted, I wish I could take credit for that, but that's actually a comment on a video on another YouTuber's channel. Specifically one that you definitely know. It's Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience. He had a video that he recently made called Jimmy Dore's Experience with Vaccine Side Effects. So if you go on, look that up, go to the comments, there's 28,000 comments right now. Just a few down from the top, one of the most popular comments, and I love it. Here it is. And this is from a screen name NJ. Quote, "Give me one reason why I should trust any government," end quote. And that comment itself got 3.2 thousand thumbs up. So imagine this is a comment on a video that got 3.2 thousand. I mean, that's amazing. And 476 people replied to that comment. So let's explore that. I love it. Give me one reason why I should trust any government. It's funny because so many people are caught up in tribalism. You know, you have to be conservative, you have to be a liberal. You know, I'm neither, I'm right in the middle. I look at the good and the bad on both sides. But most importantly, I recognize that, especially in the United States, I'd say worldwide, but especially in the United States, things aren't controlled by a political party like we think they are. They're controlled by a lobbyist. It's whoever pays money, they're able to pass laws, and for their side of the fence, they're able to get things done. So for example, plastic. Let's think about this for a moment. Plastic, okay? Today is recycling day for me. Right outside my window, there's a big bin of recyclables. And they're gonna pick that up. And then I take it away and they're gonna perfectly recycle everything, right? No, and don't take my word for it, research this, check it out yourself. What happens, especially to plastic? About 5% of plastic actually can be recycled. And once it's recycled, it can only be recycled at one time. Where does the rest of the recycled stuff go to? Most of it ends up being dumped in the ocean after other countries like Thailand or Singapore get a hold of it. But we go through all this effort to save the planet and be a good person and do the right thing. Okay, but ultimately, fundamentally, well, why don't they just make plastic illegal? If we know it's bad for the environment. Why put it on us, the consumer? Why don't we blame the plastic companies? Well, more importantly, why don't we blame where the plastic comes from? Petroleum companies, like my last name is Shell, which I'm not related to them at all, or BP, etc. We can name all these companies. Well, they're the ones making the plastic ultimately. They're petroleum companies. And you think, well, why do they care about plastic? Well, people aren't driving vehicles anymore that depend on gasoline like they did before. Now there's electric cars, there's hybrid cars. Well, they're still businesses and they still want to have a product. They still have that petroleum. We're fighting wars over it constantly, right? So the plastic comes from them. Okay, but going back to the question, well, why don't we just make it illegal? Lobbyists is the answer. Because lobbyists have paid enough money for the right political parties to protect plastic so they can continue to be made. Even though we know it's bad for the environment, the pressure gets put on us, the consumer. It's our fault. We're not a good enough human being for recycling enough. Even though I know reality where that plastic ends up, mostly in the ocean. But that's ultimately what it comes down to. So knowing that, and again, please check out what I just said. Look it up, research it. You'll find it's true. It's not some urban legend. It's not some conspiracy theory. It's reality. This is becoming common knowledge about plastic. So tell me again why I should trust the government. See, we give so much power in our minds. We're giving it to the government to save us. If only the right political party makes the right decision. But that's not how it actually works. Lobbyists control the politicians and the political parties. And even when a politician does the right thing, I would give you an example, JFK, who was assassinated by our government for trying to do the right peaceful thing. But even he got caught up in trying to stop the government from what they really wanted to do, and lobbyists, etc. That's how things actually work. So yeah, when it comes to trusting the government, no, am I against the government? No, but I just don't trust the government. There's a complete difference. I'm not anti-government. We need a government. But ultimately, as long as we've got two political parties who are being funded by lobbyists who ultimately control things. That's how the world works. We all know good and well now that tobacco is bad for you. But think of how many decades lobbyists kept it from the common consensus of everyone. Here's another funny thing to think about this, right? And I'm someone who's never consumed this product, but I want to say that because it's illegal. But I will say this: if you were trying to make an argument for, say someone says, alcohol is actually safer than marijuana. Good luck proving that point. Or if you try to prove the point that marijuana is more dangerous than alcohol, good luck proving that. You'll find that people who try to argue that are going to lose when it comes to actual facts. But I know the reason marijuana is illegal. Again, lobbyists, politicians behind their bipartisan party that they have to stick with. So ultimately, marijuana, despite we all know has medicinal purposes that actually help people, but right now, even in 2021, while it's become legal in so many states, it's still at a place where it can make more people more money in higher up the chain in politics and all that stuff, and drug companies, big pharma. It's still making people more money to keep it illegal. The moment the pendulum swings and big pharma and politicians can make more money by having it legal, then they will. But right now, that's not where we're at. So whenever things don't make sense, just know it's probably the government receiving money from lobbyists. And no, who's president doesn't really matter so much. That's why I don't get caught up in that. I know that largely whoever the president is, it's still not really going to affect my personal life. People pretend that it does. They wish that it did, so that when their person is chosen, that their life will suddenly be better. The secret is your life will not be better based on who's the president of the United States. People think it is, or they want to believe it is, but in reality, lobbyists control it, and big pharma controls it. So I constantly question anything coming from the government. I'm not against the government at all, but I question it. And it's scary to think, if you're not questioning the government, if you assume everything as it is, if you assume that truly JFK was shot by some random person and not our government, that's pretty weird. If you've never questioned that the people who hijacked the planes on 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia, as opposed to the countries we've actually been at war with, and where are we getting our oil from? Saudi Arabia, mainly. Well, there's a lot of rich people that are buddies with us, that like us in Saudi Arabia. There's a lot at the bottom that don't. Look that up. Is that a conspiracy? You decide. But going back to even plastic, so many of these things don't make sense. And when you actually start researching them, you get to decide, you know what? Maybe, whether it's a conspiracy theory or not, ultimately what we can know is this: give me one good reason to trust any government. What you're going to find is ultimately things going beyond the things we assign that power to. Ultimately, there's always an agenda that's beyond our control. Lobbyists, people funding those politicians. That's the reality of it. This shouldn't be a well-kept secret. Give me one good reason to trust any government. Don't conflate that with being anti-government and against the government, against the police. No. The government, should we trust the government and take what they're saying, that they're really looking out the best for us as they're experimenting on us with vaccines? Do they deserve our trust? That's the real question. I would be afraid of a person who says, oh yeah, I trust the government. Okay, well, if you are that person, leave a comment. Help me understand why we should trust the government instead of question the government. So do I respect the government? I respect them. Do I trust them? No. I don't think that I've seen a good enough reason why I should follow their lead on this. Give me one good reason to trust any government right here.